The Trojan War was a legendary conflict that lasted for a decade between the Achaeans and the city of Troy. The war started when Paris of Troy abducted Helen, the wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta. Many Greek works of literature, including Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, narrate the events of the war. The Iliad portrays a 4-day-long siege, while the Odyssey tells the story of Odysseus, one of the war's heroes. Although ancient Greeks believed in the historicity of the Trojan War, many scholars in the mid-19th century discarded the idea as non-historical. However, by 1868, German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann and Frank Calvert convinced the world that the city of Troy was at what is now Hazarlik in Turkey. While most now accept the claim and evidence, scholars still debate the historical basis of the Trojan War. Some scholars believe that there is a historical core behind the story, although the Homeric accounts might be a fusion of various Bronze Age tales. Those who believe in the historical conflict behind the Trojan War date it to the 12th or 11th century BC, which is consistent with the late Bronze Age collapse and a devastating burning of Troy 7. This historical date also aligns with Eratosthenes' 1194 to 1184 BC timeline, making the Trojan War one of the most significant events in Greek mythology and likely having a historical basis. The Trojan War was a legendary battle between the Greeks and the Trojans, chronicled in various works of literature and art. According to the myths passed down through oral tradition, the war began after the Trojan prince Paris abducted Helen, the wife of the Greek king Menelaus. Menelaus and his brother Agamemnon led an army of Greeks to Troy, where they laid siege to the city for 10 long years. The two most significant literary sources of the Trojan War story were the epic poems of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad narrated the final year of the siege of Troy, while the Odyssey presented Odysseus's return to his home island of Ithaca following the war. The other parts of the Trojan War story can be found in the epic cycle, which contained poems like the Cypria, Aethiopis, Little Iliad, Ilia Persis, Nostoi, and Telegony. The myths of the Trojan War continued to be passed down orally, even after the compilation of the Homeric poems and the cyclic epics. The myths also circulated through visual art, such as vase painting. The Trojan War has also inspired many works of drama, history, and other forms of artistic expression. A number of dramas depicting episodes from the Trojan War were written by famous playwrights such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. The Roman writer Virgil also wrote about the war in his Aeneid, making him one of the most significant writers on this subject. Today, the Trojan War remains one of the most well-known events in Greek mythology. The Trojan War, one of the most famous wars in Greek mythology, started with a quarrel between three goddesses, Hera, Athena and Aphrodite. Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited to a wedding and she brought a golden apple inscribed, "For the fairest." The goddesses each claimed to be the fairest and promised a boon to the young man who was to judge them, power, wisdom, or love. The young man, in reality Paris, a Trojan prince raised in the countryside, chose love and awarded the apple to Aphrodite. As a reward, Aphrodite caused Helen, the most beautiful woman and the queen of Sparta, to fall in love with Paris. Helen's elopement with Paris caused Menelaus, the Spartan king and Helen's husband, to call upon all the kings and princes of Greece to wage war upon Troy. Agamemnon, Menelaus' brother, led the Achaean troops to Troy, and they besieged the city for 10 years because of Paris' insult. Hector, Paris' brother, fought fiercely for Troy, but eventually, he was killed by Achilles. The Achaeans came up with a ruse to enter the city, built the Trojan horse, and left it outside their walls. Thinking it was a gift, the Trojans brought the horse inside, unaware that Greek soldiers were hidden inside. That night, the soldiers emerged from the horse and opened the gates to the Achaean armies, allowing them to defeat Troy and end the war. The Achaeans slaughtered the Trojans, except for some women and children whom they kept or sold as slaves. However, this act earned the gods' wrath and caused few of the Achaeans to return home safely. Many of them instead founded colonies in distant shores. The Romans traced their origin to Aeneas, Aphrodite's son, who led the surviving Trojans to modern-day Italy. Zeus, the king of gods, had always been concerned about the overpopulation of Earth. To ensure that the world remained balanced, he came up with a plan to depopulate the Earth through the Trojan War, using his demigod descendants to fight the battles. However, he was warned that he would be overthrown by one of his sons, just like he had overthrown Cronus. Zeus fell in love with the sea nymph Thetis and was aware that their son would be greater than him. However, Thetis was supposed to marry the elderly human king Peleus, either on Zeus' orders or to please his wife Hera. All the gods were invited to the wedding except Eris, who threw a golden apple inscribed, "To the fairest," as a gift. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite all claimed the apple, leading to a quarrel that Zeus ordered Paris, a prince of Troy, to settle. Paris awarded the apple to Aphrodite, which led to several adventures, including the Trojan War. The war was started when Paris went to Sparta and brought back Helen, the most beautiful woman, causing her husband, Menelaus, to launch a war against Troy to reclaim his wife. Thetis was the mother of Achilles and had tried to make him immortal, but Peleus stopped her. Achilles was foretold that he would either have an uneventful life or die young and gain immortality through poetry. As the war continued, Thetis assisted Achilles by giving him divinely forged weapons by Hephaestus. Despite the warnings and prophecies, Paris thought he could get away with abducting Helen, but the Trojan War proved him wrong. The war resulted in the fall of Troy and the deaths of many significant characters.
Do you want to explore more Greek mythology stories? Who do you want to see featured next? Subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know. I'll see you in the next video.